Yeah, I'm going to start talking about type a little bit more. I think I need to, honestly. That's kind of what it is. I need to start talking about type more. A lot of it is that, as a male, I feel like a lot of males were deterred from learning psychology or typology or differences and things like that. And I'm not saying there wasn't a reason. A lot of psychology isn't directed towards males, at least not like positive psychology or anything. I think like really we have to make a push for like a positive male typology. And I've decided I should start talking about that more. But we also have to really take a like scientific approach to it, kind of. I've been listening to a few people. Like I always listen to Jordan Peterson, and then he has his conversations with what is it, John Vervaeke and things. And I think when we talk about type and cognitive functions, a lot of it really has to do with what he's talking about there. And then I also listen to this other YouTuber, like this PF Young guy, and he's talking a lot about what I'm talking about, where, I've always been a very rational person. I know a lot of people like who follow me, they're thinkers. They call themselves rational people. And you could be intuitive, you could be a sensor, because I've talked to both. And no matter what, like to progress yourself in life, just rationalizing things isn't necessarily going to help you do that. And he talks about like the mimetic war kind of that goes on. Everybody sees that, right? Um, and I'm really like when I put out my video telling people like, hey, maybe it's not all about balance, maybe, but like it kind of is. But then like you also have to have a push to the other side. So like if you are very rational, right, and you're a thinker, and you realize like, oh well, other people aren't thinking, but they're doing things better than you, or they're getting the results that they want. Kind of, I guess that's a way to put it. Not better than you, but like they're able to influence people, or they're able to get people on board with their ideas, right? It's because they're using emotion. And I think thinkers do really have to start considering like, where do I use my emotion? How can I use it? Because I think if you're like me, you probably just don't want to, if you've seen some of the very immature displays of emotion from emotional people, you don't want that if you're a thinker. But at the same time, you realize that you're holding yourself back too, kind of. So I think that's why you see a lot of thinkers who actually do the work like of self-development, who learn young or learn some similar concept or idea, kind of start to realize like, if I just rationalize everything, I am holding myself back. So I kind of want to start talking about that through that type. And then also like that PF Young guy, I like his idea of like people are on those extremes of autistic and schizophrenic. I do kind of see that a lot. And I think that's like where you try to find your balance, is that you don't go like schizophrenic wise and you don't go um, too autistic where like nothing else can be, kind of. Um, and then like the schizophrenic way is more like everything's possible. And then like someone who's balanced, who has a balance of all of their functions, um, probably doesn't look that disturbed and can handle things in a better way, and is probably like a good person. They're not like autistic in the sense of like it needs to be like this and they become tyrants, or like schizophrenics where they just kind of like, and I'm not talking about people with disorders, I'm just relating this to like the entire meme, because I've talked about memes before, but you're trying to use PF Young's terms because the kid is smart. He is. He's got a good take on it. Um, I do like the sociological approach to it. I think Young, where people want to call him a mystic, I do think Young was just more sociological than a lot of people in psychology at the time were, because everyone was looking at humans as like a closed system without considering like there's this interplay between in and out. And then like also that P.F. Young guy talks about how like we have all of the as humans, like we have no matter what, like a part of us that wants to get into the intuition side, a part of us that wants to develop these certain types of skills. like the procedural skills and things like that. Um, and, and like also being a like thinker, and if you want to hold on to definitions too tightly, it's going to hold you back a little bit too. Um, so you kind of want to have like that more open interplay, and even understand like your definition doesn't necessarily meet somebody else's definition, but it's good to learn it because then you can have a conversation if you can like stipulate what you're talking about in a way. So that's where these are coming from. And I do think like, not everybody can articulate it the way Jordan Peterson does, but then, a lot of people get confused by the way he articulates things too. So I do think it's just important that a lot of people who realize it, because not everybody realizes it, not everybody pays attention to it, not everybody can pay attention to it, right? But I do think it's important that people who do pay attention to it and do see these realities of like different personalities, like within one person, multiple personalities and multiple extremes, is really important to start teaching people, and then hope they embody it, right? That's really what I'm trying to do is embody these things. Um, and I don't know. And I'm not saying every human's the same. I would say there's definitely like some things that some people can do that other people just have no access to. Like they have no physical access in their brain. Maybe they have more gray matter in that area or things like that, where they don't actually have the physical structure in their brain, kind of. Um, but I would say that there probably are some things that all humans have the physical structure for. Um, like, if you think of thinking as making the connections between two things that can actually exist. So just think about like the charge on like an atom, basically, or like how like our elements connect and things like that's thinking. Like you know that there's only one way that can happen, um, or that there needs to be a minimum for things to connect, for like hydrogen and oxygen to bond or things like that. Um, so all humans probably have like an ability for that. All humans can become attached to somebody, like have an emotional feeling, like feel that they are part of like a tribe or something like that. So, maybe you weren't born into that environment where you actually get that sense. I think all humans have an ability to have meaning and honestly find whatever their belief is, like their spirituality. God, I like the idea that it's more that God is more psychological. He is like the fact that we could become aware to the voice inside our head and listen to the voice inside our head. I do like that idea a lot. Um, I think it explains a lot that people often get confused about. Um, so yeah, that's why I'm going to be talking about type more, but it's more about like the development of humans and cognition and the different ways that humans can perceive and judge the world and things like that, more than like, oh, you're this type and you should do this. And the reason is really when I really like the reason this is you can't just do that. It's like that's set up for a world that doesn't allow people to like individuate on their own terms, kind of.